In 1960, the first televised presidential debate took place between Kennedy and Nixon. Those who listened to the radio version generally had a more favorable perception of Nixon. The people who watched the televised version, however, were largely in favor of Kennedy. This is because Kennedy had nicer hair, wore a suit that didn't blend into the background as much, and came across as a confident leader. Nixon, however, came across exhausted because he was recovering from the flu, was fidgeting due to a knee injury, and didn't seem very personable. The debate did impact public perception, with 3 million out of the 4 million voters who watched the televised version ending up voting for Kennedy. The amount of people who voted that election is around 68 million, so 3 million is nothing to scoff at. But it wasn't so much the issues which swayed public opinion. Otherwise, both the radio and televised versions would have left people with roughly the same perception, but we're often more judgmental than we realize, with presentation and likability taking precedent over political policy. The point of this video isn't to say that debate never changes people's minds, but that even though debate is more prevalent than ever, it is becoming less and less significant. And the parts that do matter have more to do with presentation and entertainment value rather than the debate itself. For example,
it's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Yeah, because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
It's a well-timed comeback and quite entertaining. The crowd loved it, but this moment more closely resembles something like The Jerry Springer Show or wrestling, rather than a presidential debate. While this is good show business, it doesn't really help anybody understand the issues. I think it's safe to say that one of, if not the most influential figure in modern debate is Ben Shapiro.
You know, when you're on college campuses, there are really only a few reasons to debate anyone on the left in the first place. The first is that you are forced to, under the rules of the classroom for some odd reason. The second is because they're serving you food, which is a high likelihood, and they're going to spit it in unless you talk politics with them. And the only other reason is if the person happens to be an honest leftist. You found the one honest leftist in America, congratulations, it's unlikely. So the only other reason that you should ever have a conversation or be friends with anyone on the left is, and not even be friends, is if you are in public in front of a large audience, and then your goal is to humiliate them as badly as possible. The conversations that are going to make the most difference on campus are the ones where you're in public in front of large groups of people or with a camera nearby, and your goal then is to make these people look as bad as possible.
Although this approach is good for viewership and garnering support from people who already lean conservative, it's not going to help anybody be more open-minded. Shapiro has backpedaled on this by claiming he was joking, but he precedes this by saying, here are 10 practical rules for debating the left, and his tone is very serious, even dire, so claiming this was a joke is just a lie for optics. This attitude of prioritizing humiliation is popular on both the right and the left. The goal of political conversation today is less about understanding and more about winning, leading to a lot of talking past each other, grandstanding, bad faith, etc. But negativity in politics has been around for a lot longer than Ben Shapiro.
Think about it. When the decisions of one man can affect the future of your family for generations to come, what kind of a man do you want making those decisions? Think about it. Who is the one man who has the experience and the qualifications to lead America in these troubled, dangerous times? Nixon's the one.
This was a Nixon campaign ad from 1968. It makes sense to campaign off of the American people's frustration with the Vietnam War, a very understandable frustration. But this does sort of set a tone for political ad campaigns to come, that it's not enough to just support your candidate, but to fear or hate the opposition. The National Conservative Political Action Committee, commonly referred to as NCPAC, was founded in 1975 and found great success with negative campaign ads, especially in the early 80s. From this point on, negative campaign ads would only continue to rise in popularity, increasing the importance of fear and hate in politics. This kind of negativity would become a key component of modern debate, but this wasn't the only thing to shape political discourse to come. Although presidents are famous by default due to the nature of their position, I don't think many people would consider them celebrities, at least in the traditional sense. But there has been a trend of celebritization in politics. The public's perception of a candidate's personality and style didn't matter nearly as much a few decades ago. It did still matter, but it wasn't front and center. This trend would be highlighted during Bill Clinton's 1992 presidential campaign, where his rock and roll aesthetic and saxophone playing would be a major part of his campaign's success. And of course, on his way out of office, he would experience a scandal you would expect from your standard Hollywood celebrity. Then George W. Bush got elected. While his campaign wasn't run in the same flashy way that Bill Clinton's was, he would still become a media sensation by being ridiculed, satirized, and parodied. Then Barack Obama was elected. The milestone of becoming the first black president of the United States would be a large part of his image, so he was also quite prominent in the public eye. And then Donald Trump was elected, a bona fide television celebrity. The importance of sensationalism in politics has seemed to reach a peak. A big part of this is due to the media growing larger and faster, with the internet taking sensationalism to new heights. This would not only influence political campaigns, but online discourse and debate in general as well. The rise of the internet would also lower the bar for journalism across the board.
And you make the claim that because blogs have an infinite amount of space to fill, the bar lowers for what the quality of their content. But because a lot of the mainstream news outlets have a lot of their content coming from online as well, isn't the bar lowered across the board?
Absolutely. I mean, we've always sort of joked about how having to fill a 24/7 cycle makes cable news just talk about total bullshit. Well, what if it was a infinite cycle? And yeah, like Fox News can throw up a blog post, and depending on the response to that blog post, decide whether they want to popularize it through their radio assets, through their television assets, through whatever other means they have.
The infinite news cycle of the internet is largely driven by virality. While media outlets have always been trying to maximize viewership, the infinite news cycle has created an environment where fact-checking is not a priority. In fact, it can even be a hindrance when it comes to viewership, and some news outlets will go as far as to exploit this by intentionally misinforming the public. So because journalism is getting less accurate, because their sources are getting less accurate, because they often focus on the petty and unimportant, pundits and politicians will often focus on the petty and unimportant. The landscape around debate is rather faulty, but when you add in daily streaming and parasocial relationships, it gets even worse. Not only is streaming for hours and hours a day bad for mental health, it also doesn't allow streamers enough time or space to think about issues objectively, making emotional responses and knee-jerk reactions more common. Egotism is also an issue because people often won't admit when they're wrong, although it's hard to tell if this stubbornness is due to ego, optics, or both. On the side of the audience, there can be influence and peer pressure, which not only affects the viewers, but the streamer as well. This is all happening before a debate even takes place. The viewers' biases and perceptions of a debate have already been established beforehand. They are not watching to be informed. They are watching to root for or against someone. They are watching to have their beliefs affirmed. They are watching to be entertained, not challenged. Can we even call this debate anymore, or has it become mere theatrics? Are pundits changing minds, or do people just naturally gain and lose interest in different figures? How often are people enticed by the quality of someone's perspective and not just trying to avoid boredom? This streak of division in America is not sustainable, and modern debate hasn't shown any real promise of helping the public navigate politics. It only seems to divide us further. Alright, that's gonna have to do it for this one. Shout out to the best subscriber squad in all of YouTube. I hope everyone has a wonderful day.
My information, which is confidential, I'm supposed to have. The house which is sent it to, it looks abandoned. They don't cut the grass. It looks like it's a haunted house, okay?